Welcome to another episode of the Real Estate Market Minute. My mission is to help you better understand the latest trends in the U.S. real estate market and share with you my analysis and industry expertise. I want to help you gain an advantage and feel confident whenever you're buying and selling real estate. I'm your host, Mark Salib. I'm a passionate real estate professional, advisor, and investor, and I love what I do. Follow and DM me on Instagram at The Salib Group. Send me an email, mark@thesalibgroup.com. And as always, thank you for tuning in to today's show. How many of you homeowners out there just feel stuck in your home right now? And it's not necessarily because you dislike your house. Maybe you actually love your house. But if you wanted to move, even to just another home right down the street in your same neighborhood, chances are you're probably choosing not to. And that decision is key. And I want to explain why, because I think it's one of the biggest things going on in the housing market, and it's moving the market in a certain way. And yes, even bigger, in my opinion, than mortgage rates. And here's why. Listen to this data from Redfin and Zillow. So the average homeowner now stays in their home in the U.S. for anywhere from about 11 to 13 years. Now, if you go back and check out this data from decades ago, it was a much, much shorter time frame. People often stayed anywhere from 5 to 8 years. What people used to do, the behavior used to be that you buy a starter home and then you move up to another home to fit your needs. And so you'd relocate a little bit more frequently than you ever did. But now homeowners aren't doing that. They're just staying put. And what it does is it impacts existing home sales. According to the National Association of Realtors, existing home sales have been running near multi-decade lows. Now, it doesn't mean that people don't want to move. It just means they're not willing to move. And this is why. And this is the thing I talked about in a previous episode very briefly, and I want to get into it much more in today's show. It's called the lock-in effect. And what it means is this: millions of Americans locked in mortgage rates, right, in 2020, 2021, 2022. And those rates hover around 2 to 4%. And even if you go back before 2020, a lot of folks anywhere from about 2015 even through 2020 have mortgage rates locked in the 4 to 5% range. But now compare that to today, and as we know, we're sitting anywhere from 6 to 7%. Right now, about somewhere between 6.3 and 6.4%. Now, when you think about the psychology of this a little bit, you own a home and you have a 3% mortgage. You have a comfortable monthly payment. And now you're thinking to yourself, all right, I want to move. I need another bathroom. I need another bedroom. I need a bigger yard. Whatever it may be, okay? And if you buy a similar house to yours, just a similar house, I'm not even saying upgrading, your payment will jump dramatically. Your property taxes will increase dramatically. Your insurance could go up. So people just stay put. And the reason why I think this is a bigger story than mortgage rates is because people are also staying because moving costs are higher. Insurance costs are much higher, right? And when you have so much equity in your home, and this is a huge factor right now, according to Intercontinental Exchange, U.S. homeowners have $17 trillion in equity. About $11 trillion is available equity. So if you're a homeowner, you're thinking to yourself, I'm pretty comfortable financially. I don't have any distress. Unemployment rate's pretty low. I'm not in any pressure to sell. And so what do you get? One of the tightest housing inventories we've ever seen. And one of the lowest pending home sales statistics that maybe we've ever seen. And this trend, let me tell you, it impacts so much of the market. It impacts the ability to get a starter home. It impacts the ability, because why? Why do you think it impacts the ability to not get a starter home? Because the same folks that bought a starter home in the last 10 years, they're not leaving. They're not moving up. So the next phase of folks that want a starter home can't get it because it's not available. So you don't have a lot of starter homes coming back on the market for first-time buyers. That's why if you look at the stats for first-time buyers, they're at 21%. That's the lowest percentage of buyers of homes being first-time home buyers ever. Just 21% of home buyers are first-time home buyers. That's the lowest percentage ever. Right? And so when supply stays very tight at that sort of lower first tier end of the market, the starter home market, well, it gets even worse if you're a young buyer trying to get in. And that's the real impact here. It's not just rates. It's just availability of a starter home. That's the thing I want everyone to realize. Right? So what do people do instead? Instead of moving, they renovate, they make additions, or they just deal with the situation they're in. Right? And there's another impact here that people aren't realizing too. This affects older homeowners and retirees because what do they typically downsize to? They downsize into what are today's starter homes, oftentimes smaller homes, townhomes, condos. And those aren't available, at least as much as they used to be. Right? So you got a lot of retirees that are just saying, well, I'm just going to stay where I'm at. And they're not moving either. So again, the impact here is really important because you're impacting inventory in a major way. You're causing a major supply issue, right? So this has to get figured out because you got fewer starter homes for sale, fewer move-up buyers sell, fewer retirees downsizing, so fewer homes circulate through the market overall. And that's why you get such low inventory. And that's why it's so constrained for so long. Now, it also hurts transaction volume, which I talked about, right? And that's the pending home sale stuff. So you just get homes just not changing hands very often. So everybody gets impacted with that. Real estate agents, mortgage lenders, title companies, contractors, moving companies. And so that broader housing economy just simply gets impacted even more. You know, housing depends heavily on just movement, just overall movement not happening. So look, I'm not saying that the housing market's not expensive. Look, prices are high. They definitely, went through a pretty inflationary moment there, and for several years. And I'm not saying rates aren't too high, although they're not that historically high. They're high relative to the last 10 years or so. But but I'm trying to make a point here that you have high rates and you have high prices. But there's an emotional and financial aspect to this that's just freezing the market. And it's just, I think that if you had more people able to move as they wish, then I think that what would happen was I think the market would just normalize. It would create more inventory and it would create more balance to the market and not have prices continue to go higher and higher and higher. But that just can't happen. So it's not just the housing market's expensive. Everybody talks about rates like that's the big story. I think this is a much bigger story. I think this lock-in effect is the story, much more than rates. So, if you've yourself felt just stuck in your home lately, you're definitely not alone. And that feeling that you have multiplied across millions and millions of homeowners, it, to me, is one of the biggest forces shaping the housing market today. That is it for me today. Thank you so much for listening to today's show. And as always, if you have questions or need specific advice, ideas, or just some help regarding your particular real estate needs or situation, or if you're just looking to buy or sell real estate in Florida, well then DM me on Instagram at The Salib Group, or just send me an email to mark@thesalibgroup.com. Don't forget to leave a rating for the show, follow, subscribe, help others find the show, and be informed and educated about the real estate market just like you. Until next time. Before we end today's show, stop what you're doing and subscribe right now to Real Estate Market Minute Plus. Listen to all episodes ad-free. Get exclusive bonus episodes and content and help support the show's growth, longevity, and future improvements. Go to realestatemarketminute.supercast.com right now. You can also find the link in this episode's show description. Check it out. I know you'll love it.